E aí, criptoentusiastas? Sejam bem-vindos ao canal Cripto é Pop, onde falamos sobre criptomoedas de um jeito simples e descontraído. O vídeo de hoje é o primeiro de uma série onde vamos falar um pouco sobre as personalidades mais importantes do mundo cripto e sobre o seu trabalho. Para começar, a gente escolheu uma das figuras mais conhecidas do mundo do Bitcoin, Michael Saylor. Saylor é o CEO e fundador da MicroStrategy, uma empresa de inteligência empresarial, que comprou 21 mil bitcoins, no valor aproximado de 250 milhões de dólares em agosto de 2020, como reserva de valor. Essa atitude causou uma mudança na percepção do Bitcoin como uma reserva viável para as grandes corporações. E hoje, a MicroStrategy é a maior companhia de capital aberto do mundo a comprar e manter Bitcoin em caixa. Ela tem cerca de 150 mil BTCs, que estão valendo mais de 4 bilhões e 500 milhões de dólares, ou 22 bilhões de reais. O Saylor é um grande defensor do Bitcoin, que ele considera como o ouro digital e a melhor proteção existente contra a inflação e contra a guerra econômica violenta pela distribuição da riqueza que assola o mundo. Ele se tornou um dos mais importantes porta-vozes do Bitcoin e é conhecido por suas discussões articuladas e apaixonadas, aparecendo frequentemente em entrevistas, palestras e redes sociais. Quer saber mais sobre esse assunto? Então, vem com a gente, porque Cripto é Pop. Em uma palestra recente chamada O Futuro do Bitcoin, ministrada na conferência BTC Praga 2023, que é o maior evento sobre Bitcoin do mundo, Michael Saylor disse que o dólar está condenado a perder praticamente todo o seu valor perante a inflação, que as outras moedas fiduciárias estão ainda pior, e que a única saída para preservar o valor dos investimentos é sair dessas moedas e mudar para algum ativo que mantenha o valor do patrimônio ao longo do tempo. Então vamos dar uma olhada no que o Saylor tem a dizer sobre o futuro do Bitcoin.
I'd like to talk about the future of Bitcoin and how Bitcoin plays into all this. And you can see in my chart, Bitcoin's about $400 billion of this $900 trillion worth of global wealth. You see gold is 12 trillion and equities are 115 trillion. It used to be gold was equal to equity. If you go back 50 years, it used to be gold was about equal to equity. So what happened? Well, there's a lot of technology in equity. You know, we talk about gold being a shiny dead rock, but think about gold mining. And think about what technology has done to gold mining in 50 years. Semiconductors don't make it easier to mine gold. Mobile phones don't make it easier to mine gold, right? What's happened in equity? Well, you've got Tesla, you've got Apple, you've got Google, you've got Amazon, you've got the internet, you've got the telephone. So technology has shifted the balance of power from gold to equity. Most important point is the government is changing this field. Technology is changing this field, and you can work as hard as you want, but you're going to have to take into account government policy and technology if you want to actually survive in this world. The world reserve currency is the dollar. It's collapsing against assets like the S&P index, like real estate, like gold, like art. This is the dollar collapsing against consumer goods. It means consumer goods are 20 times more expensive today than 100 years ago. This is as good as it's ever going to get for you. Gold is a bit harder. The dollar has collapsed 99% against gold in that same 100 years, not 95%. Let's talk about something that's even more scarce. The 500 most valuable companies in the S&P. The US dollar has lost 99.8% of its value against the S&P index over that same 100 years. This is the world's strongest currency. This is as good as it gets. It will get worse. This is Miami Beach. Miami Beach runs 96 blocks. There's that much beach. 100 years ago, there was that much beach. No amount of semiconductor technology or factories make more beach. The dollar has fallen 99.8% against the beach in 100 years. That's how you start to see what's really going on with the world's strongest currency. Foreign currencies are collapsing against the dollar. This is the Argentine peso against the dollar. In 20 years, the peso goes from 1 to 500. The peso's lost 99.8% of its value against the dollar at the same time that the dollar's lost 75% of its value against the S&P index. There's only one strategy here. You have to get out of that peso. This is the lira. This is before this week. It lost 95% of its value. Now the number is about 97% of its value against the dollar. This is the rupee. It's lost 90% of its value against the dollar. So we're kind of running out of numbers to calculate just how much of your wealth has gone from you to the government. This is the Brazilian real, 65% against the dollar. Conclusion: if you want to preserve your wealth, you have to convert that currency into an asset that's scarce, desirable, portable, durable, and maintainable. Look at the money supply. The money supply is going up at the same rate as the S&P index. And so what you begin to realize is most investment gains aren't really gains at all. All you're doing is simply tracking the monetary inflation rate if you're lucky. 1% of the companies in the S&P index had all the gain. If you look at this chart this week, there are 493 companies in the S&P index that have collectively 0% return, and there are 7 that have 50% return. And another way to say that is 99% of the companies cannot keep up with inflation. And this is why I say maybe your hard work doesn't matter as much as government policy matters.
Está gostando do vídeo até agora? Então dá um like, se inscreve no canal e diz aí nos comentários. Você também acha que é preciso sair das moedas fiduciárias e investir com tudo em Bitcoin? O Saylor começa a segunda parte da palestra com a pergunta: o que é o dinheiro? Ele diz que o dinheiro se tornou ineficiente como reserva de valor para os trabalhadores e para as empresas, e mostra que o Bitcoin é melhor do que todas as moedas fiduciárias, melhor do que o ouro e melhor do que as ações, pois pode fazer o seu patrimônio durar para sempre.
So that leads us to the question, what is money? Well, in theory, money is a way for you to store your economic energy and not have it stolen from you by the government, by a bad investment decision, right? Perfect money is, in fact, the solution to all your problems. But what is good money? Gold has been an aspirational money, but it's defective. And the reason gold is defective is because we keep creating more of it, and you can't custody it. And so if I keep creating 2 or 3% more, then that means that the half-life of your economic energy in gold is 35 years. It means every 35 years, your money is cut in half, or the value of your wealth is cut in half. The only way to make gold perfect is to stop mining it and make it possible to teleport and carry around in your head. It is difficult to create sound money. How difficult? Well, Bitcoin has gotten 50 trillion times more difficult to mine since it was formed. Now, what is that telling you? Well, for the money to be sound, I have to cap the supply. And in order to cap the supply, I have to make it exponentially more difficult to create it. And human beings in this small corner of the world, Bitcoiners, who have been ignored, they figured out how to create 50 trillion times more work in those 14 years. That's why anything that can be produced with human intellect and capital will always be awful money, because you're betting against human intellect. I'm going to actually store my money in something that you can make more of, and I'm going to bet you're too stupid to make more of it. Okay, that's an awful bet. Somebody somewhere with less money than you has a lot of time on their hand to figure out how to get your money. That's why you need something like the difficulty adjustment. And that's why it's so difficult to create sound money. Bitcoin is sound money. And what's brilliant about Bitcoin is it started with a higher frequency, but that natural frequency is going to infinity. It's becoming a very low frequency money. Next year, after the halving, stock to flow is 120. The half-life of your economic energy in the money of Bitcoin goes to 100 years. In the year 2036, the half-life of your economic energy in Bitcoin becomes 1,000 years. In 2048, The half-life of your economic energy in Bitcoin is 10,000 years. Now, politicians want to tell you that this is impossible. Commodities and nature tells you this is impossible. But look at my chart here. In your lifetime, there is one asset that has a long enough frequency that you can actually expect to keep your money forever. This is economic immortality. When flow goes to zero, stock to flow goes to infinity, the money lasts forever. If the money lasts forever, you have hope. What is money? Perfect money is a way to escape the misery of the economic war that is depriving you, your family, and your company of 99.9% of everything you have with absolute certainty. And there is no amount of work, and there is no amount of trading, no amount of thinking that is going to escape this reality. You're going to have to find this solution.
Para Saylor, a única solução, a única estratégia econômica que pode ser vitoriosa a longo prazo é investir na melhor forma de dinheiro que existe, o Bitcoin. Ele mostra uma tabela impressionante, comparando quanto você teria em 100 anos se investisse $1 milhão em diferentes tipos de ativos e quanto teria se investisse tudo em Bitcoin. Dá só uma olhada nisso.
There's only one winning strategy that I see. It's hold the best money. If you hold the dollar, which is the best currency, you're going to zero. If you hold a weaker currency, you're going to zero in a few years. Gold is a sort of better money than the currency. Stocks are a better money than gold. Bitcoin is a better money than the stocks. So what's the implication of that? If you had $1 million today in your company or in your family, and you hold it in cash in the world reserve currency at a 7% inflation rate, in 100 years, you will have, in today's dollars, $977. You will go from 1 million to 1,000. You'll lose 1,000x. It's 1 divided by 2 to the 10th. If you take all your $1 million and buy government bonds yielding 3.5% interest, you're going to have a 3.5% negative real yield. Carry that for 100 years, you're going to have $31,000, 3% of your wealth. If you're brilliant and you invest in the S&P, you're going to have $1 million. You'll have the same value, the same wealth in 100 years you have right now, but no more. If you take half of it and invest it in Bitcoin and the other half in the S&P, you're going to have $512 million. And if you go 100% Bitcoin, you're going to be a billionaire. All you got to do is flip your $1 million into Bitcoin, hold it at 7% real yield 100 years, and that's the money you have times 2 to the 10th. And so you can see in a very simple way, there's a winning strategy, there's a losing strategy. Every other strategy is, the trading, the investing, is just a waste of time. You could ask, what about the real world? Here's real world in the last 2.5 years since MicroStrategy entered Bitcoin. Bitcoin has outperformed the S&P, the NASDAQ, gold, silver, and bonds. Bonds are destroying wealth. Silver is destroying wealth. Gold is destroying wealth. Bitcoin's crushing everybody. And you can say, well, what about MicroStrategy? All the guys on Twitter, they're all like Twitter trolls. Hey, you lost some money investing in Bitcoin. That's the MicroStrategy performance. That is your company on a Bitcoin standard. That is your family on a Bitcoin standard. See, you keep dollar cost averaging or Bitcoin cost averaging. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter at what price you buy. What matters is you keep buying and you don't sell and you don't invest in the bonds, the silver, the gold, and the rest.
A previsão de Saylor sobre o futuro é que o Bitcoin vai desmonetizar todas as outras formas de investimento ao longo do tempo. Ou seja, que cada vez mais dinheiro vai sair do ouro, do dólar e das ações e vai migrar para o Bitcoin. E ele faz uma grande recomendação para você. Assista agora mesmo e veja qual é.
The future The world's in an economic war, but the world is beginning to realize Bitcoin is the superior asset. And as they realize that, Bitcoin is going to demonetize all these other assets over time. We have laser eyes, because laser eyes say focus on what you can change, save what you can save. In this particular case, you can make Bitcoin a success. You can tell the world about Bitcoin. No country can stop inflation. Nobody can stop inflation. I can put you in charge of the world. You cannot stop inflation. 99% of the companies, they cannot outrun inflation. 99% of the workers, they cannot outrun inflation. 1% may beat the market by skill and luck. Don't assume you'll be the 1%. Everybody can buy Bitcoin. So, buy Bitcoin. Thank you.
E você, já investe em Bitcoin? Então dá um like, se inscreve no canal, segue a gente nas redes sociais e clica no sininho para não perder nada, pois afinal de contas, cripto é pop.